When Milan and I started ARBD awareness, it was because for many years we had come across a total ignorance of Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome, not only from the general public, but also with the medical profession and with those involved with social care. The people who were most interested in the illness were the relatives of those who had Korsakoff's, only to discover that there was very little information available and almost a total lack of support. As we have investigated the illness and how it is managed, we have found that there are people out there who are aware of the illness and the damage it causes and want to do something about it. We are always quick to point out that this is not a new illness and that it was identified 130 years ago. So there has been plenty of time to find a solution and to put in place methods to manage the illness. 48 years ago, I was employed as an auxiliary nurse on the Accident and Emergency Department at Cardiff's Royal Infirmary. I know you're thinking, well, he just can't be that old, can he? But unfortunately, I am. I was employed not because of my ability to emulate the talents of Florence Nightingale, but because it was useful to have a bloke on duty when the drunks came in. Apart from the houseman and the consultant, I was the only male member of staff on the unit. For the weekend shift, the houseman came on duty at 9 p.m. on a Friday night, and his shift finished at 9 a.m. on a Monday morning. And over the weekend, there were always people who were drunk. The problem with people who are drunk is that they don't want to be helped. They don't want to be in A&E, and in a situation where there were people who were sick or injured and wanted attention, then the drunks would go to the back of the queue. Sad person that I am, I have recently spent my time reading a number of reports connected with ARBD. All of them were excellent. They identify the problem and make recommendations for the management of the illness. In reading these reports, I think, wow, there are people who understand ARBD and know what to do. So just why hasn't it happened? Let's just take one issue, the care pathway. A pathway is a recognized route of assessment and care for anyone presenting at hospital. If you turn up at a GP surgery or a hospital, there is a good chance that once the symptoms have been determined, then the medic will know what to do. If you go to hospital following a fall and you suspect that you have a broken arm, then the pathway you take will be straightforward. You talk to the doctor, he sends you to X-ray, and you then come under the orthopedic department, who will decide what treatment you need. Your arm is put in a sling or plaster, and you rest up for a couple of days. Sorted. But when it comes to ARBD, there are no national guidelines, no standards of care or established pathways across most of the UK for the assessment and longer-term management of ARBD. To put it another way, most hospitals have yet to work out and put in place who determines what is wrong with a person with ARBD, which department do they come under, and what is the appropriate treatment. So what happens is that the treatment and care they receive is disjointed and uncoordinated. I imagine that the system works like this. Someone decides what the problem is. In the case of the reports that I have been reading, the problem with ARBD has been recognized and recommendations made. But there is no compunction for anyone to implement the reports. It is the commissioners in each trust or authority who decide how the money is spent, and if they don't implement it and back it with money, then it just doesn't happen. That's what's happened in the UK. In Wales and Scotland, they appear to have a very good understanding about the problems caused by alcohol, and though they have put into practice small schemes in certain areas, it has not been rolled out across the country. My contention is that the problems with alcohol are not confined to one area of the country. If a report is written for a trust area in Northern Ireland, then it would equally apply to any other trust area in the country. I will always argue that Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome is not a dementia, in that it does not need to be a degenerative disease, and so the necessity to recognize it early is paramount. So here's the challenge. If you want to do something about ARBD, find out if there's an ARBD pathway in your local hospital. Write to your local hospital and find out. Then pester your local MP to push the commissioners to put in place a care pathway for people who present in hospital with an alcohol-related condition. You never know, you might just save a life.